Hello everybody, I'm Andre Taylor. I'm the Leadership Specialist with the International Water Centre, and in this video I'm going to give you an overview of the IWC Water Leadership Program, which is our flagship program that we run each year. In this video I'll firstly define what we mean by leadership, but then I'll explain why I think it's valuable to invest your time in building your leadership capacity. Then I'll explain the elements of the program and evidence that it works, its evaluation results, and finally I'll highlight some pathways where you can access more information if you want to know more about the program. I'm defining leadership using a modern definition here. Leadership is a process of influence that delivers direction, alignment of resources and activities towards that direction, and personal commitment to collective success. So leadership's not a position, it's a process of influence. Here's a definition from Ken Blanchard, or a quote from Ken Blanchard that makes that point. The key to successful leadership today is influence, not authority. So this program is designed to help emerging water leaders, non-executive water leaders, to build confidence, knowledge and skills in how to exert influence, including how to initiate and drive change. Let's take a couple of minutes just to dwell on the question of why invest the time to build your leadership capacity. Here's a quote from John Kotter, a thought leader in leadership and cultural change in particular from Harvard University. And he's making the point, if we want to drive change, we need to have high levels of leadership capacity. And often in organizations, we have a lot of managers and not many leaders, and that really holds back our ability to drive positive change. So we need people, not just people with lots of authority, but emerging leaders, team leaders, thought leaders, as well as executive leaders, to build their capacity to drive positive change. If we're going to address problems such as how to manage water sustainably in the Murray-Darling Basin or how to build water-sensitive cities. We can look at various frameworks and models that have been developed that describe the ingredients we need to drive positive change, and chances are leadership will feature strongly in these frameworks. Here's another quote from an Australian water leader, Paul Greenfield, and he's saying that water leaders drive change. While some have outstanding technical abilities and some have advanced management skills, all water leaders are adept at the art of influence. Here's a conceptual model, one of several we use at the IWC, highlighting some of the ingredients that effective water leaders need to build their capacity to drive change. They have personal attributes like values and personality characteristics. They work in a context, so the context matters a great deal. But they've also got groups of abilities, and one of those is influence, and that's the focus of the IWC Water Leadership Program. A few years ago, the Water Services Association of Australia did a major body of work to identify the skill sets or abilities, capacities that water leaders will need into the future, with a focus on their constituents, which is urban water managers. And you can see here the results that I've plotted, with leadership being right at the top. And those capacities with a star next to them are ones that are addressed to some extent in the IWC Water Leadership Program. So in short, the water industry recognises the need to build leadership capacity in its workforce. There's also plenty of research findings that, particularly case study analyses that have looked at positive case studies of change in the water sector, usually leading to more integrated and sustainable forms of water management. And these research projects have highlighted the importance of leadership, and they typically find a network of people, leaders, playing different leadership roles, working together to drive change. We also need to be aware of our context. In the 21st century, we've got often dealing with very complex challenges, and in these complex environments, there's a greater need for leadership generally, as well as more distributed leadership. So leadership isn't just coming from one person, it's coming from groups of people, networks of leaders driving change. Certain forms of leadership are needed, like adaptive leadership to address complex challenges. And leaders playing different leadership roles need particular attributes or abilities to play those roles effectively. Here's a quote from some North American researchers and authors that highlight that point. They're making the point that in these complex environments, we don't need just top-down focused or directive leadership. We need distributed or shared leadership from people at all levels of the organisation. So Gone are the days where leadership development is something that just executives had to think about. These days, emerging leaders, team leaders, thought leaders need to be working on their leadership capacity. Let's change gears now and have a look at the Water Leadership Program. What is it, and what are its elements, and does it work? So it's a 9-month feedback intensive leadership development program that runs once a year. We start at the start of December and we finish in August in a typical year. And it's been running annually since 2011 with approximately 20 to 25 participants per year. It involves a diverse range of activities, coaching, 360-degree feedback, face-to-face intensives. I'll go through all of that in a moment. It's designed, and the design of the program and the content of the program is informed by research. That's really important to us. The IWC is an organisation that was initially formed by 4 universities in Australia. So we've got that evidence-based design philosophy embedded in our DNA. So when we put together this program and when we choose topics and models and activities to put into the program, we want to make sure that there's a strong evidence base for that action. This program is also linked to a graduate certificate in water leadership at Griffith University, so there's a pathway for people to do the water leadership program and get a graduate certificate degree, and it's supported by the AWA and Water Services Association of Australia. The main aim of the program is to help these emerging non-executive water leaders to build confidence, knowledge and skills to exert influence, drive change and advance more integrated and sustainable forms of water management. Typical age or average age of people who do this program is around 33. We get a high degree of diversity of participants, but the classic stereotype of someone who joins our program would be a team leader working in, say, a water utility or a state government agency or a local government agency, although we have consultants and people working in non-urban areas as well as urban areas. And they want to build the capacity to play a number of roles. It might be the team leader role, the champion role, the thought leader role, the adaptive leadership role. And they've got technical and management skills, and now they want to build those leadership skills. One of the things we try to do in the program is to facilitate a range of activities over the 9 months that collectively provide our participants with challenge, trying new things, trying new approaches, using new tools, as well as feedback from their colleagues about what's working, what's not, where they need to pivot and change some of their habits or behaviours. Support, from coaches, mentors, peers, and also good reflection as well. So that combination of challenge, feedback, support, and reflection is a key design principle that we include in this program. Here's a quote from one of our alumni, Penny Ball, and she's making the point that she chose this program over other programs because it's tailored. So rather than doing a generic leadership program that's not designed for any particular industry or any particular form of leaders, this program has been designed from scratch from emerging water leaders with a focus on Australian water leaders, and we also focus on 6 particular leadership roles that we know are important in case studies of positive change in the water sector. A few other design elements or philosophical points that are embedded in the design of the program include the design of the program and the contents needs to be informed by research. I've mentioned that before. It should also help water leaders play a variety of different water leadership roles. And if we focus on 6 in this program, I've put a reference to an open access journal paper on this slide if you want to have a look at the framework that we incorporate into our program. And all of our participants choose which roles are most important to them. So they might be playing the team leader role or a champion role or a thought leader role or an adaptive leader role to address complex challenges. So typically a leader in our program will focus on 1 or maybe 2 of those roles, and we provide guidance on how to play those roles more effectively, and they build a leadership plan that includes tips and tools to playing that role, and they go off and implement that plan back at the workplace. So we provide quite a few options for participants to pick and choose about which water leadership role they really want to focus on playing in the short to medium term. We also apply the 70-20-10 rule of leadership development in this program, which says briefly that most development happens by doing. That's the 70%, the bulk anyway. The 20% reflects feedback and support from colleagues, and the 10% by structured learning. So we have elements in our program such as leadership projects, leadership plans, to help our participants go back to the workplace and start applying new tips and tools and different mindsets back at the workplace, and learn by doing, learn by conscious practice with feedback, support and reflection. We also think it's important that as we deliver elements of the program, we include people that are both academic specialists as well as executive leaders. We use them as group mentors. We have guest speakers that are often former alumni to this program, so they were emerging leaders. Some of them have gone on to executive roles. And we also have water leaders, people that have worked in the water industry working as IWC coaches as well. So we have a mix of people helping to deliver the program. Now here are the key elements. So if you enroll in this program, this is what you would experience. So early in the program in December, we kick off with an online workshop to get to know each other. That's a live workshop. Some reflection activities, some readings to do over the summer. We also run a 360-degree feedback process that is customized. We start that in December and we wrap that up usually in late January. Then in February, we get together for a 5-day intensive, which is a lot of fun in Brisbane. And that's a compulsory element of the program because we go through a lot of the core content then. We also have some executive group mentors come into that intensive, as well as guest speakers. Each of our participants build a individual leadership development plan after the first intensive, with at least one, sometimes more, challenging leadership projects embedded within them. Those projects are usually things they have to do back at work anyway. Sometimes they're projects outside of work in the community. We have 3 one-to-one coaching sessions with IWC coaches. We have some asynchronous online activities that run over several months, and participants can pick and choose which ones they most want to get involved with. They can do them all if they like, but there's some choice there. We also have 6 90-minute live or synchronous online workshops on various topics, things like crisis leadership. Some of them involve guest speakers. Again, participants can pick and choose which ones they get involved with. We have local mentoring discussions, so we coach our participants on how to set up local mentoring conversations with people back at work. We also coach our participants on how to use coaching skills themselves, and we ask our participants to do some peer-to-peer coaching activities throughout the program, both to practice those skills of coaching and also to get the benefit of coaching. And we run a follow-up feedback process as well just before the follow-up face-to-face intensive in July, which is a 2-day intensive. We offer that both face-to-face and online. And we have a final reflection report at the end. So there's a few other things I haven't mentioned, but that's the main element of the program. So you can see it's a substantial program with a significant amount of activities in there. And in terms of the kind of content or the topics we address, we've got something like 30 to 35, maybe even 40 modules or topics in the program that our participants can pick and choose from. Things like influence, social networking, playing each of those 6 roles, elements of self-leadership, resilience, lots of topics that people can pick and choose from, and they decide what topics to address in their individual leadership development plan. We also issue 2 types of certificates at the end of the program. So for those participants that have done everything in the program that we ask, they get the Certificate of Excellence. And for those people that have just done the core elements of the program, they get a Certificate of Participation. And these days we issue those certificates as digital badges through Griffith University, which is great to see. And you can choose to have those linked directly to your LinkedIn page if you're on LinkedIn. There is also a pathway to go on and do a graduate certificate of water leadership at Griffith University if you wish. There's 2 ways to do that. One, you can start your graduate certificate straight away, which takes a year, and that includes the water leadership program plus some additional coaching and assessment elements. That's one way. The other way is to do the water leadership program on its own, get the Certificate of Excellence, and then come back in a couple of years or later to complete the final course in the graduate certificate, which involves a challenging water leadership project with some assessment tasks. The level of commitment, if you just do the water leadership program, is about 14 days of work over the 9 months. So that's about 1.5 days a month. So, you need to think about whether you've got that time available. And we do require that our participants attend the first intensive, the 5 days in mid-February in Brisbane. So that's important. Everything else is flexible and can be done remotely. In terms of evaluation, I'll just move over this quickly, but we have very strong evidence that this program is effective, and probably explains why it's been running for 10 years and has been very popular. We've had over 220 alumni now go through the program. Here's some anonymous participant feedback in terms of whether the program met some of its key objectives. You see very high ratings there. We also do something that most leadership development programs don't do, and that is we anonymously survey the peers of our participants towards the end of the program to measure real behavioural change. And here's some data just as a bit of an indicator, but here's the average for a particular cohort in 2020. And you'll see here that 5.6 or 5.7 is between moderate and high levels of positive behaviour change as assessed by people's peers. So this is reliable data that this program really makes a difference in terms of changing the sorts of behaviours that each person or participant is working on through their leadership development plan. Some years we also do a conservative estimate of return on investment. So for example, in 2012 when we did that process, it's quite a lengthy process, so we don't run it every year. The conservatively estimated return on investment was over 300%. So what that means is that an average participant is likely to repay the full cost of participation in less than a year. And if you think about most of our participants, the average age is 33, will go on for another, say, 30 years in their career, then they're clearly going to get a very high level of return on their investment from doing this program. We also have quite a lot of testimonials if you want to get access to these. I've given one in this slide, and we're also more than happy to connect you to people that have done the program, and if you'd like to have a chat with them just one-on-one, we can connect you to people maybe in your organisation that have done it, or people playing different or similar roles in different organisations. All right, so how can you access the program? Well, there's two pathways. One is if you're fortunate enough to get a scholarship, that's one way in. In a typical year, we offer full and half scholarships. The IWC offers some of those scholarships, and also scholarship sponsors, like Clearwater's been very generous in past years. Scholarships typically open in June, July each year, and they close in September. So please look at our website for details of that. You need to apply, put in an application. They are assessed, and if you're fortunate enough to be offered a scholarship, that's sorted out usually in October. The other option is to just come into the program as a full fee-paying participant, and most programs participants take that pathway. And the way to do that is simply to apply. You can do it any time before the end of October each year. Best to do it early so we can start liaising with you. And the cost of the program is $10,500 Australian dollars, which can be spread over 2 financial years if that's helpful to you or your organisation. It's typically tax deductible, and that includes the cost of the program, but doesn't include any travel related costs. So where can you go for a bit more information? Well, our website is a good place to start. There's plenty of information on there, including a readiness assessment tool. You can have a chat to some of our alumni members, and I can put you in touch with those people if you like. For example, you might be a consultant and you might be thinking, I don't know if this program would really work for consultants. And we usually have 1 or 2 consultants each year, and I can put you in touch with those people so you can have a chat about, whether it's suited or not, or their frank assessment of how much value you're likely to get out of it. Or you can have a chat to myself or my colleague Brian McIntosh at the IWC. Brian's probably best to talk to in terms of scholarship issues and procedural administration issues. And if you want to talk about what goes on in the program, the content of the program, then it would be better to speak to me. Here are my contact details, and I'd love to speak with you. Okay, bye for now.